Thank you. Scott Peer.
Good evening. I'm Scott Peer. Thank you for listening. I'm here to talk about solar energy. I'll continue from where I left off before, showing how difficult it is to help clean up our environment by telling my story of how I've been unsuccessful in trying to build a solar system in Glendale. In 2007, I selected an architect to design a solar system on my garage, and I selected a solar contractor. In October 2008, GWP approved the plans. We thought we were weeks away from construction, but planning rejected our application, and the city attorney wouldn't help us. In March 3rd, 2009, I came to the Glendale City Council for a second time to oral communications, and at that point, Council Member Frank Quintero asked why nothing had happened yet. That was over a year ago. On March 24th, 2009, I went to the City Council meeting, which included the planning solar report prepared by Chris Bagdikian, which was on the agenda. And you can see the video on the website. It's over 4 hours long. At 2 hours and 10 minutes in, there were 4 public speakers. All 4 were in favor of solar power. At 2 hours 31 minutes, planning made the claim that my garage has a variance, which it couldn't because it was built in the 40s before the setback codes were written. 2 hours 39 minutes, Councilmember Yusefian wanted the city attorney to call the state attorney general to see, as he asked, what Mr. Brown says. That was almost a year ago, and the city attorney, Howard, has said nothing about the attorney general response. I got that response in writing. It says that the city is, quote, in direct violation with the law. Notice also the state attorney general website includes this statement from Mr. Brown. I am committed to doing everything in my power to ensure that California meets its greenhouse gas reduction targets. I suspect that Mr. Howard is aware of the Attorney General's opinions as well as the state law, and that's why he didn't contact the Attorney General as he was requested by Councilmember Yusefian. At 2 hours 41 minutes, Councilmember Yusefian also asked the City Attorney Howard what the intent of the law is. Mr. Howard spent about 9 sentences, depending on how you count, claiming the intent of the law is not clear. However, the second sentence of the law clearly states the intent, stating, it is the intent of the legislature that local agencies not adopt ordinances that create unreasonable barriers to the installation of solar energy systems, including, but not limited to, design review for aesthetic purposes and not reasonably restrict the ability of homeowners and agriculture and business concerns to install solar energy systems. Mr. Howard could have more quickly read the intent for everyone to hear. He's consistently claimed familiarity with the law since November 2008. So here he's asked a question which was so simple it sounded like a trick question, and he didn't answer the question. So we see Mr. Howard failed to contact the State Attorney General as requested. He failed to inform the Council as to the intent of the law. He failed to mention Government Code Section 65850.5, passed the Assembly by a 77-0 vote. Not one legislator thought that the law was so unclear or ambiguous that they would vote against it. He also failed to mention legislature is aware of Glendale's noncompliance, as shown by their archiving Glendale's code in the legislative record. He also failed to mention that there's a series of at least 3 laws on the subject with increasingly specific language showing the legislature's frustration with cities like Glendale that flaunt the law. So it's clear that the legislature and the Attorney General want the reduction of pollution to trump local rules. And the Deputy Attorney General stated that Glendale is in violation of state law regarding that. It's clear that the legislature intends for there to be no zoning restrictions on solar systems, as the Deputy Attorney General stated in her letter. The only thing that's not clear is why the Glendale City Attorney wants to defy and mislead the Council, break state environmental protection laws, and deny the rights granted to the residents in the Solar Rights Act.
All right, that ends oral communications. Are there any comments or responses? Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We are looking at the letter that was written to the city immediately prior to the planned Planning Commission hearing to address those issues. We've paid for the entire legislative record, which is through a service called Legislative Intent Service, to pull all these documents. Just to further confirm that, I think the council knows that obviously it's not our intent to defy state law or to defy any direction of the council. And I would state that just specifically with respect to the comment regarding the Attorney General's requesting Attorney General's opinion, that's something that we can't do. We'd have to request a state legislator to do that. It was suggested by Mr. Youssefin when he's on the council that we do that, and we said that if the council wanted to do that at a later time, we could put together the proper paperwork. But that was never an actual direction by the council to take that, and that's to request a formal opinion from the opinions unit of the Attorney General's office, which has never been given with respect to this issue. But back to just sort of the main substantive issue, we are looking at it thoroughly. We are, again, reviewing the letter that was submitted to the city back in February, and we'll be analyzing that when the item comes back to the Planning Commission and the Council in the coming months.
Yeah, we want to be clear, Ms. Hargani, that we are working on this issue in terms of solar power placements, et cetera.
Yes, we are, and the Planning Commission is diligently actually looking at this in detail, and they've asked for additional information, which we will be providing them.
Okay.
And in terms of that letter, I would hope that you're not just looking at it, that you're speaking with the author of it to get some clarity.
We are. And I've attempted to make contact already, and before we go to the Planning Commission, we'll be having a conversation with her.